Good evening and welcome back to another show on the Final Flight podcast, and we are back with another Wayne Room review. We started off with Oisin Murphy the other week, and we are very thankful again to have another fantastic guest, jockey Jason Watson. Good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, James. Thanks very much for having me on.
Good, man. Thank you for giving up your time and giving us a little bit of insight throughout this evening. We're looking forward to it. Like we normally said, we sort of started off this show to sort of review some of the big races and get some good insight to some of you lads behind the saddle. And thankfully, you've come on, so thank you for that. Rich, Joe, you've had a good week so far. Looking forward to this show again.
Yeah, it's great. It's what it's all about, getting to chat to jockeys. We're just three guys that love horse racing and just talking about it. So, yeah, it's fantastic.
Are you, Joe? You all right back off holiday?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Back off holiday. And when is it I go? I'm back away a week tomorrow.
Setting out time, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, and then back home for a week and off to Royal Ascot. It doesn't get much better than that, does it? But yeah, this Saturday I will be at York, so some good racing to look forward to. And yeah, recap some good racing that was last week as well, or weekend.
Certainly is, mate. And we're going to kick straight off over at York. We're going to start with the Dante. I'll come to you first, Jason, if I can, mate. Obviously, a big prize winner. Well, not a big prize winner, but Economics won pretty well. Marquand in the saddle, Ancient Wisdom in there. Sort of, what would you say your view is on the Dante? How it was maybe run? Sort of, what about the horses going forward? Obviously, the Derby picture. What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, look, it was a very impressive performance. And by the Haggis horse, and when you look back through the form when he ran last year, he had one run last year. He was obviously they thought he needed a bit of time last year, and they just wanted to get him out and have an experience. And bar Zoom that won that day at Newbury, who was disappointing in the Mill Reef this year. The horses that finished second and third just in front of him have come out and won, and appear to be nice horses. And obviously, I think it's always promising when William Haggis is a first-time out winner of the season. He's obviously a magnificent trainer and highly regarded, but he is the sort of trainer sometimes that has horses that warm into the season rather than peak at the start. And he was impressive at Newbury, and I thought he was probably slightly overpriced for the Dante, and I think that he was withdrawn from the Derby entries at the closers to start off with, and whether they're regretting that decision now, I'm not too sure. He could possibly end up being a French Derby horse, but look, he put the race to bed very easily last week, and I think the way the race planned out, it was possibly a bit tactical up front, and didn't maybe suit a couple of the other fancied horses, but Tom Graham with smart ride, and obviously it looks like the world's out his oyster at the minute.
Yeah, I'd agree with all them points there, to be honest. I mean, I come to you, Rich. You quite liked Ancient Wisdom for the boys in blue, and he was firmly put in his place by Economics. What are your thoughts on that sort of form going forward?
I wouldn't write Ancient Wisdom off. I do think he's a horse who likes cutting the ground. I mean, Jason rode in a couple of races prior. Was the ground good? Was it quick? Was it?
Oh, I felt as though it was top ground. It was good ground. And it was obviously fairly early on in the meeting. So as the meeting went on, the ground got a bit tackier. But yeah, it rode good ground to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the winner did it impressively. I think, was it Maureen Haggis that came out and said that he didn't think he'd get the Derby trip, but to me, I think he'll be fine personally. But yeah, it was a good race. Like you said, the Dante is probably one of the best Derby trials to say. So be interesting to see how it stacks up. But yeah, Ancient Wisdom's ones that I still like. he's probably one for the winter, back end of the season, you know, when the rain does come. But yeah, it's a good race. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good race too. I mean, I obviously queried it before, didn't I? Saying, you know, what is it going to be a vintage renewal? And we'll certainly find out going forward. Joe, what were your thoughts on the race, mate, and economics going forward?
Yeah, economics looked pretty impressive and looked to improve. You know, we've seen a few horses that finished in behind the race at Newbury, you know, get pretty well backed. Under Siege obviously ran on the Friday, come second. But you know, looking at times and stuff, there was only 0.5 of a second in there between Blue Stocking and Economics. So going back to Oisin's point about when we spoke about 1,000 guineas, 2,000 guineas, I know we're not up to that level here, but the gap between the Colts and the fillies was pretty big there to me in these two races. Looked like there wasn't a lot in it between them both. Like I say, I don't really know what to make of the race, though. I think I'm not too sure. God's Window and their Cambridge War Rooms, you know, they're all horses that you just don't really know where they're at. And Ancient Wisdom too. You know, Economics definitely looked very impressive. Well, you couldn't ask for more, could you? A 6-length winner of the Dante. But yeah, I wouldn't go around saying he's an absolute world beater at the minute. But like Jason said, he's definitely got the world at his feet at the moment, and you know he's not proved that he can't do anything yet.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to see how they get on, and if they actually supplement him back in for the Derby, it'd be interesting. But yeah, all in all, a good race in the end. Right, moving on then to the Yorkshire Cup, another fantastic race that we've normally been in seeing. And Joe, I mean, you had the winner, you tipped the winner, Giavaletto, going back to back with Oisin Murphy on board. And Vauban, what do you make of Giavaletto then going back to back?
Very impressive, mate. You know, had the sort of similar prep going over to Maidan and was only 3 lengths behind Tower of London. Spoke to Oisin before. He said, you know, Tower of London shouldn't have won where he won from in Dubai, over in Dubai. But was impressive. But knew Giavaletto was going to be fit. The money obviously come. He was about 8-1 midweek. I couldn't believe that price. Got to pick got to have 3 places there. You knew the field was going to cut up, and yeah, like I say, it was a readily winner, wasn't he? To be fair, I was pretty impressed with Vauban though. Very keen throughout. Didn't really seem to get much cover. Always lit up. Finished second, 4 lengths behind a Giavaletto, who was obviously prime for this. I think Vauban will end up going back to Melbourne, but yeah, I don't think we've seen the best of Tower of London. Ryan looked pretty peed off, to say the least, when he come out of the weighing room, ready to jet off to ride Kyprios. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with Giavaletto. And even when you look at the race card, every horse had Royal Ascot next to the name apart from Giavaletto. This was Giavaletto's Royal Ascot, wasn't it? And looking back, I think the 8-1 was a massive price. I should have probably sunk a bit more in, but no, brilliant winner, to be honest, never for catching.
Yeah, good man. I'll come to you, Jason. I mean, I sort of mentioned about Vauban, his sort of record first time out's not entirely the best, and I thought he performed pretty well. Tower London, obviously, maybe not firing fully, but what did you make of the old winner with Oisin on board?
Yeah, look, to be fair, he's got the talent there. He's finished behind Elderoff, and then, you know, obviously won the St. Leger, and he's got some really tidy form behind him. I think the race was a bit messy to start off with until eventually Al Kareem went on with Clifford Lee. I felt as though they went a nice sort of honest gallop. And, you know, Oisin was in the perfect sit the whole way round, and you could see sort of turning in that he was going to be in with the right chance. I think, you know, Vauban, he was disappointing in Australia. He's come back. He's a sort of horse that'll get better as the season goes on. Like you say, first run out, probably will, you know, he'll improve plenty for it. You know, Willie Mullins horses are always a tough bunch of horses to beat. Tower of London, I think it's just a bit of a pattern at the moment with a few of the Aidan O'Brien runners. You know, they're just sort of taking their time, and some aren't firing right. Obviously, City of Troy was a disappointment in the Guineas. But, you know, he's just having possibly a slight blip at the moment with a few of his horses, but he's a good enough trainer that, you know, he'll get past that.
Yeah, he's not too bad, is he? Like you say there, I think even though he might be coming on a little bit slower, they'll soon get them all firing. Rich, sort of last word on the old Yorkshire Cup.
No, he won it very well. I think you could tell when Oshie had a quick look behind him, see what was about.
The dreaded look back. I always say.
He just went. Yeah, it was a good race. I'm surprised Vauban ran as well as he did personally. Like you say, could have been a prep run, but yeah, he was very good behind Giovaletto. Tower London very disappointing. I thought. I mean, the Ledger form I think is quite decent, and for whatever reason, like you say, they're just taking a run to get going. The O'Briens, but no, it's a good race, and it was to say he probably won't do the same next year, but. For me, that is his trip. I mean, last year he went to Goodwood, finished 5th over 2 miles. York, 3rd over 2 miles. Maybe 1 mile 5, 1 mile 6 is his trip.
You know, the say horses for courses. They always keep coming back. Right, that's the Yorkshire Cup then. So I'm going to come to you first then, if I can, on this final one, Jason. Obviously, the Locking Stakes, we had an audience winning it. Stablemates obviously in Spiral, who was in 4th. What did you make of Inspiral's comeback and the race and how it maybe panned out? And what did you think?
Yeah, strange race to watch, and there's been a bit of a pattern of that so far this year with some of these bigger races. Look, obviously, audience was in the race to be the pacemaker for Inspiral. I can imagine that Schumacher was there to, sort of get a lead, and obviously first run of the season for her, and the way that Gosling's horses have been firing, you would like to think that they will come on for the run eventually, but a few of them are taking their time to warm into the season, and it's nothing new. The tactics were sort of all the same as what she's normally ridden, and I just think that it was one of them things where everyone knew what Rab Havlin was going to do in audience and sort of anticipated that it would work out, and eventually audience would fade away, and it just did not happen. So it was an inspiring ride to watch. Great for Rab, but he's well liked in the weighing room, and obviously a good performance from the horse, and has definitely outperformed what it suggested would be capable of, looking at this last previous bits of form. But no, it was a good shot.
Yeah, I think it's always quite funny when a pacemaker just basically bolts up and nothing else really goes past. But yeah, I agree with what you said then, and fair play to Rob Havlin. It was a great ride. I mean, I'll come to you, Rich. I mean, I had Shireen in second. I thought it was a decent run from Sylvester de Souza. You obviously liked Inspiral. What did you make of it and taking it forward?
I mean, I wasn't impressed when Gosling said she was coming to the race with a bit of condition. But yeah, it's one of those things. I was surprised High Royale didn't go up with audience. He's one that likes to go from the front. So that was a bit surprising. But, I mean, fair play to him. I mean, he went off and nothing could get near him. But, yes, been a very tricky start to the flat. A lot of surprises, twists and turns. So hopefully now he's had a run under the belt, we should get a bit more consistency.
Well, like Jason said there, maybe Gosden, Aidan O'Brien, they're all kind of taking just that little bit longer to sort of get ramped up, and we're getting a few. I mean, most of these main races with these massive price winners, it's certainly making it a tough start. Joe, what did you? A quick final word on the Lockinge?
Yeah, mate, very, very interesting race. Like Richard, Gosden seemed quite surprisingly happy with Inspiral. Said she brought a lot of condition into the race. Audience. I remember watching at Doncaster. That was the day we went, James, the Ledger Day, when Continuous won. And when I look back now, I sort of think, yeah, he was right. Rab Havlin rode and just let the horse bounce out, and then got headed and sort of rallied back. And he just said, we thought the step up to a mile would help. And obviously it did massively, but I don't think anyone really expected it. Talking about sort of late developers this season, I did see a video and they were saying it could be to do with all the rain we had about, February, March time, that horses just are taking that bit longer to get the summer caught and, fully progress into the summer. So it might just be something like that. So trainers aren't being too harsh on them. So giving them the same path, but, more of a run out, Royal Ascot type of thing, or, horses to the end of the year. We seen it last year, didn't we, with Augusta Rodin, and then come back and sort of showed his true colours here and abroad. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm worried about Gosden and Aidan O'Brien blips yet, but no, a very interesting race again, to say the least.
Certainly was, and that's sort of it for the review of the weekend. So thank you all for your opinions on those, lads. And I'll come to you then, Rich, and you can sort of fire into Jason. We've got a couple of rides to discuss with you, good or bad. We'll dissect it if you can, and we'll get your thoughts. Take it away, Rich.
Yes, the first one I've got is Sea of Roses. I think you rode a third at Goodwood in the listed contest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Look, she sort of surprised me that day, and I think she surprised her connections because, best form is on soft, heavy ground. And it definitely wasn't that at Goodwood. It was probably, for me, felt like good ground, maybe a bit tacky. And she can race a bit keenly in her races. So the plan was to sort of take our time, get her nice and relaxed, and do what we call sort of ride to place. Sometimes if you're aiming on rather finishing the first three rather than winning the race, it sort of gets you to be more patient in your running. And it worked perfectly for us. There was a point there I thought we were going to win, but I think eventually the fact that the ground was not to her liking and suited the other horses was what beat us. But no, she was impressive, and I'd like to think that she can, progress a bit more this season. She sort of got stuck in a rut last year, but she was spun into some pretty competitive races.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, she's ran well enlisted and Group 3 company, and I think she was in the Ascot Champions Day race as well. So surely she's going to win soon, because I think she's only had a second time out. So
she's that race at Ascot. She was a big price that day, and she wasn't beaten all that far. And I think she's very versatile as well in the way of riding her, which is great from a jockey's perspective, because obviously you can have your plans going out, but tactically races change, and if you've got a horse that can adapt their tactics, it sort of gives you an extra edge to the rest of the field. And I mean, we're going to struggle now to find the softer ground, but I think although it wasn't quite to her liking, she handled it very well, and I can't see why she couldn't win on that sort of surface.
Yeah, for sure. The next one I've got is Unique Spirit. Made his debut at Haydock, finishing second.
Hey.
Do you think he needs to step up and trip? Do you think that's when we'll see the best?
He's definitely going to need to step up and trip for sure. I mean, he made me earn my fee that day. Look, we've liked him a lot, and we knew that he needed time last season, so we avoided running him. He'd been working well up until his race at Haydock, and we thought he'd run a nice race, but we never quite know how green horses are going to be. David O'Meara, he does normally do plenty with them, and he did with him, and sort of how green he was sort of surprised me. But what I liked about him was no matter how green he was, he did respond to pressure, and I think he'll be much more switched on the next day. He'll probably take quite a big leap forward in his greenness, and he's going to be, I think, mile and a quarter sort of horse. Probably would prefer a bit of cut in the ground. He's got quite a high knee action, but we've held on to him for a good reason, and I think it's going to pay off.
No, for sure. It's definitely one I'll be looking out for. The last one I've got, I think, is due to run tomorrow at Kempton. Arcadian Thunder. I think he's up £3 to 86. Do you still think there's room there to go in again?
I'd like to. I remember he was my only ride up there, and I sort of looked at the racing report from his previous one at Wolverhampton, and there was like an essay about how he ran. So I thought, well, I better have a look at this, and it didn't look too pleasant for Danny. I don't know why that day he hung like he did at Wolverhampton. That was obviously our first start for David O'Meara. Maybe the straighter track suited him at Newcastle, and I sort of went up there with the idea of just trying to get him relaxed and hoping that we don't hang in the closing stages. And he was impressive because he dug deep when I needed him to. He relaxed well enough for me. I think there is improvement in him. He looks as though, when you look back through his form, he's fairly, sort of unexposed. And I think that if the bend, turning tracks aren't an issue for him, I'd like to think he'll run very well again tomorrow. But we never quite know. Like I said, I think maybe Newcastle helped him out quite a bit the last day, and he might just be one of those sort of classic David O'Meara horses who will end up being solid handicapper in those mile races at Ascot or those 7 furlong races at Ascot, and potentially be that sort of horse.
Yeah, no, perfect. I think James might have one. Do you, James, just to mention quickly?
Yeah, I'm going to mention one. I mean, first of all, I actually tipped up that Acadian Thunder last time, so thank you for that. A very good ride. I thought you looked like you were maybe going to get past, and then, like you said there, when you asked for effort, he certainly gave you it, and I thought that was a really good ride, so thanks for that, pal. I appreciate it. The other one, then, is actually the one that you rode the other day. Bo Pedro is a horse who I really like, and I just wanted to get your feelings or your thoughts on what you thought of that race. Obviously, he's staying on really well at the end, and I thought, what do you think about him going forward?
Yeah, I was very happy with him the other day. I could have ridden him a couple of times this year, but opted for sort of David O'Meara's over a couple of other runners in the race, and I've always gone for something else because he just has been a bit disappointing at his Newmarket runs. And I mean, he's won, I think, at both tracks at Newmarket, but he's been disappointing. So I wasn't too sure about the other day, and his form at York wasn't bad, but I think it suited us how quickly they went. It was a very fierce gallop, and although the winner made all, I think it was a very strong run race. And he's that sort of horse. He likes plenty of pace on. He likes to sort of pick up the pieces at the end, and then once he starts passing a few horses, he can really pick up. I would have liked there to have been rain. I think he's a horse that needs soft ground, ideally. But again, he's the sort of horse you throw in at Ascot again and try your luck there. He might be a horse for the Balmoral at the end of the year, hopefully with softer ground. He can run 2 different races each time, which could be kind of frustrating. But he's an older horse technically now as well, and with a lot of them at David's stable, those sort of good old handicappers, they have their quirks every season and they can take a bit of working out. But he's had a couple of runs now, and it was nice to see him show that he's going in the right direction for the season.
Yeah, I love that. Fingers crossed he can get another winner to in him this season at some point. Right, thank you for that. That's it for that sort of section. The next sort of section we normally do is like last time we asked Oshin, just sort of, can you give us a couple of horses to sort of follow for the rest of the season, whether it's somebody we've not seen yet or somebody you might think you might be riding or anything like that, just a couple to maybe keep an eye out. Do you manage to have 2 for us?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll do 3 because I ride a lot for Andrew, Gary, Moore and David, so I'll give you one from each one. Dark Cloud Rising from David O'Meara's. He's an unraced 2-year-old. I think he's ended up at York this Saturday, actually. He's Dark Angel, and he's done very well in his work at home. He's been very, very straightforward. He's a very strong-looking 2-year-old that looks like he could end up being a strong 3-year-old as well. But he's just done everything just how we wanted him to at home, and we really like his attitude, and we think he could really go on and be a very nice horse. Then we got Qatari of Gary Moore's, won on him the other Saturday at Ascot, previously winning with him at Salisbury, and we backed him up, within a week because I managed to win on him by 10 lengths, was not ideal, but he got the job done at Ascot from a bad draw in a much more competitive race in a short period of time. He was no good over obstacles, but I think he's definitely found his feet with the flat, and I think there's still plenty of improvement left in him. he was due to go up £10 for the Salisbury race, and even after being reassessed at Ascot, they've left him at the £2 rise, and I think there's more improvement off of that, Mark. And then with the Andrew Balding stable, the horse actually finished behind Economics at Newbury under siege, and was second the other day at York. I think he bumped into another nice horse the other day, Gosdin's, to be fair. I've ridden him out at home. I find him a lovely stamp of a horse. And I think, if he doesn't bump into another potentially, pretty nice horse, he is equally just as nice a horse. And, he could end up being a very solid miler,
Fantastic, love them. Well, we'll get all them in the trackers, and if you're riding them and they lose, well, we know where to come, don't we? So thank you for that, Jason. We appreciate it massively. It's great to have some insight. Right, that's that for that section then. So moving on to the last section then is where we like to put up an eye catcher each from last week. So I'm going to come to you first, Rich, and you can kick us off with your eye catcher going forward. Have you picked one that hasn't already won yet, or?
No, so the one I've gone for, I was there on the Thursday at York. I actually backed the winner, thankfully, but my dad's friend was on this horse that finished second, so one of us was happy. It was in the Novice Stakes. Yarmo Be There, is it called? Something like that. It got beat by a short head by the Burke horse Andesite, who was a Pinatubo colt, so he was all about speed. And I think it was first time out, and like I say, Holly Doyle was on board. Very professional sort of ride. I mean, I think he's by Mahatha, so he should get 7 furlongs of the stepping up, maybe even a mile. I just think surely based on that ride on Thursday, there is a win. He won't be a maiden for long, but we'll see what sort of price he is. But yeah, he's definitely worth a follow.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to come to you, Joe, and then I'm going to finish. Who's your eye catcher of this week?
My eye catcher is It Ain't Two. Ran in the Marygate, the Fillies race, was drawn on the complete wrong side. I spoke with Rich, and Oshin said he rode him out in a piece of work beforehand and he flew. And when you stumble out of gate 16 at York, wrong side of the track, it's pretty tough to make it up. He was always on the back. She was always on the back foot. Was only beaten 3 lengths in the end, and I'd say Buick was pretty easy on her. Finished 8th, but only beaten 3 lengths. I think she could be a winner next time out, to be honest, watching that run. If you watch it again, as soon as the horse broke and wasn't really with it out of stall 16, that was race over. We know how big the draw bias was at York last week, and it was pretty heavy. But yeah, that's mine. It Ain't Two.
Love it. Well, mine's going back to York as well, and it's actually a horse I put up, and it's a horse, another Oisin Murphy ride, believe it or not, Woven. I thought in the Churchill Tyre Stakes, obviously got a little bit caught up with poor old Hispanic, who sadly lost his life, but he finished like an absolute train, I thought, after travelling pretty well in behind that. We're over 6 furlong. 2 out of his 3 wins have been over 7, so I think off the same mark, stepped up in trip, I'd be looking at somebody like Woven. And the other one was Bo Pedro for old Jason Watson, so fingers crossed we can get a win out of those going forward in the season. Right, that's it for another Weighing Room review. So thank you all very much for watching. Jason, again, just thank you very much for giving up a bit of your time and coming on. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, it's been great. I think it's podcasts like this are very important for the general public and your racing fans to get a real insight and hear from us lads, because it's hard to get a judge sometimes in the game. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, James.
I appreciate that, Jason. And like you said there, we are racing fans first and foremost. So to get to sit down and chat to people like yourself, it's fantastic for us. So yeah, thanks again, and hopefully we'll get you on again in the future. Rich, anything last words? Joe, any last words before we go?
No, another great week. Like I say, it's always great to chat to the jockeys. They know far more than we do. we just pretend we know what we're talking about rather than actually riding the horse in the race. So that's great.
Joe.
Yeah, brilliant. Another brilliant guest, some good insights. Like I say, it's not, when we set this podcast up, I didn't think we'd be getting names on like this, but yeah, thanks again, Jason. Best of luck for your ride throughout the season, and fingers crossed I'll be I'll be cheering on Dark Cloud Rising.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Joe. Thanks, Rich. No, that's look, hopefully we can all have a good season.
Hopefully, and don't worry, if Arcadium Thunder doesn't win tomorrow, I won't be knocking on your door, so you're safe. Don't worry about it. Go and ride your race. But yeah,
You
thanks
might be
again.
back on board if it's Tudhope on it tomorrow.
Yeah, Turret's on it. Yeah.
Oh, is it switched off? I've not looked. I thought you
Yeah.
were on it against someone.
Oh,
Oh, well,
I
he's
forgot
got a
to-
great chance then, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hopefully not.
Well, I'm not going to back him now. Then if he's on it, I'll still be all right. Yeah. No, thanks for coming on. Like I say, it's great to talk to the jockeys and get the insight, and hopefully the people who are watching have enjoyed it as well. And like I always say, thanks again. We'll hopefully get more guests on like yourself and Oshin, and we'll keep cracking on. But yeah, thanks again. Like and subscribe to the channel, folks, and we'll see you all again next time. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much.